Korasalan Dudjom Tersar Sarva Siddhi Om
Tashi Delek, everyone. Welcome to the foundation class, the Ngöndro teachings. So we'll begin, and then first with the opening prayers, the Dudjom Tersar Ngöndro. Please bring in mind the precious motivation of the Bodhicitta, that we want to bring all motherly sentient beings to the state of perfect and complete Buddhahood. To do so, then I will engage in listening to these profound teachings. Okay, now page 59. Page 59. That's it. Prayers requesting the 7 branches. 7. You have the. Oh yeah, before 1 page before that. 7 branches. Dudjom lomben sangyen ben Düdjom shulai chansen lo chonsum dembe shinjuro lai nime yike chansum. Ngöjuro yike namdru ben dabe chenbai shesu se ngodru chowo chebe. Neje malu shambarage choju korosum dabe che macha chela jeye. Dabe Tashi Delek zobe changshu semgendo. Deshe wanchu sembala daba sumge lubel. Tsera drambe gewa nam dune janshu chotu. Mandala offering. Sajin pun chun chun jime don dram. Re ram ling shen ne den gen bai de san ge shin do me te po wai ye dro gu nam da shin lai che para sho idam guru radha mandala kam niryata yami Semjen namge sambadan loye jedra jedawar chechon tunmo tebaye chege korlo korodu sun. Okay, now you requested the teachings, and then I will do a short invocation of the blessings of the lineage lamas, so that they grant me the blessings and the permission to expound these teachings. Tembalame Zange Rimboje, Jobalame Damje Rimboje, Drembalame Geden Rimboje, Jamne Kunjo Sumla Chatsalo, Tamke Tuje Shakcha Resur. Shingi Mithu Digi Bongjomba Serge Limbo Tambur Jibeko Shache Gebo Shabla Chanzelo Balden Soni Chudersu Bale Kenseye Grange Sandru Charbeb Ganchin Kedru Yonke Tsujachu Soge Dorje Roe Lama De Lama Dongombo Jezen Jambe Yangla Chanzelo Gange Lode Dimne Tender Netaranam Darat Jenne Dengen Jejen Zekjen Nege Togara Lek Bamzen Ganda Sinbe Zenrar Mare Muntum Dunya Gizerwe Druzo Gunla Bojen Darjen Yanla Drojo Yanden Shlo Do Daracher Dronian Monilon Leke Chandro Janze Mare Munsul Dunya Nyugo Jenne Jenzeraden Denne Dajen Sajur Danzen Yenden Luso Gensen Tuwe Go Jota Jandan Jonen Jund Dan le mun se chambe yang la rab du de Omara banzana 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 de Sende Kege Kenra Yuzarken Dale de Momembaras Kadan Denjen Shulo Dobaye Lode Bobe Nawa Zaldo Sun Lume Konjo Sumge Ngone Kusumge Wajan So Chezocho Kamsum Chege Gembo Zo Chemba Dudjom Limbe Shamla Sewande Korde Danyam Cheni Rolparo Todro Ngonjur Sange To Bara Shongen Zerizinyu Den Dorje Zelma Onde Sheme Bantaye Sham Tata Pechon Getsa Droben Ye Jigre Ye Shen Do Jela Sewan De Sangye Kunye Chime Pema Jong Shen Dur Trupe Tsunzen Long Chenje Gange Yang Sen Chenle Norbola Sewan De Son Tremen Chenge Lo Choge Lama Namge Gensam Do Angurung Long Sen Chomen Shende Bebe Neljor Kunban Zo Chenpa Sangye Do Jen Shamla Sewan De Omen Chege Yinge Podang Desum Sangye Kunge Ngo Ne Rang Sem Che Gungon Sum Tenze Ba Zawe Lame Shamla Sewade Ne Lo Toba Gyavara Jinja Lo Le Parashe Ba Bomba Kendo San Nam Ka Danyam Be Sem Jen Dam Jen Nam Gen Den Gen Dewa Nana Ma Che Ba Yang Da Para Zombe Jang Chu Rimbo Che Chin Ne Chang To Para Jam. So please bring in mind the precious motivation of the Bodhisattva that in order to bring all motherly sentient beings to the state of perfect and complete Buddhahood, that I will listen to these profound teachings and bring forth the understanding of the meaning of these profound teachings and thereby engage in my life. We are here listening to the teachings, the preliminary practice commentary by Lama Tarchen Rinpoche, and it is laid out in the text is outlined as outer preliminaries, and then the common preliminaries, and then the extraordinary preliminaries. We are still on the outer preliminaries. The outer preliminaries has invocation of the Lama's blessings, and then the contemplations on the four thoughts that turns one's mind toward Dharma. So we finished the first two thoughts. Now today we are on to the third thought, contemplation on the cause and effect of positive and negative actions is absolutely certain and unfailing. So this is contemplating on the infallibility of cause and effect. Karma is actually produced by mental habit. When such habits are repeated over and over again within samsara, karma, cause and effect, is created. Repetition of mental habits is the cause. The effect, our experience of happiness or suffering. Karma is the result of anything you think, say or do, either positive, virtuous, or negative, non-virtuous. By reflecting on cause and effect, we come to understand that our karma, both positive and negative, is the only thing we actually take with us when we die. So, as the Buddha mentioned or taught, that everything, this whole universe, this whole samsara, is a reason from karma. The mirrored life births and different kinds of life forms of this samsaric existence is a reason from karma. So this is what we need to contemplate. So reflecting on cause and effect, we come to understand that our karma, both positive and negative, is the only thing we can actually take with us when we die. So when we were born, we came empty-handed. Similarly, like that, when we die, we'll go empty-handed. However much that we accumulate and hoard and so forth, when we die, we go empty-handed. But not just empty-handed, but along with us, whatever karma that we had created, whatever karma that we had accumulated, that's surely going to follow with us. For this reason, it is extremely important to pay close attention to everything you think, say, or do. It is crucial to cultivate positive actions and to try to abandon negative ones, with the understanding that even the smallest negative action has the potential to cause an entire forest to burn down. In the same way, do not consider the smallest virtuous actions unimportant. Every single beneficial action, like adding a drop of water to a large vessel. So this one is quoted from Dharma, that we shouldn't take for granted just like tiny negative actions or negative karma. Like a spark of fire can burn the entire mountain, likewise. And then tiny virtuous actions we should not take for granted. We should actually engage, even if it, however small it is, like little drop of water accumulates into ocean. So in that same way, do not consider the smallest virtuous actions unimportant. Every single beneficial action, like adding a drop of water to a large vessel. It may seem insignificant, but even though eventually the vessel will be full. So things like that. So when we talk about karma, then we now have to go dig deep into what are the actions or what are the causes of karma and so forth. So there are 10 non-virtuous actions which are the cause. There are 10 virtuous actions which are the cause of happiness, and 10 non-virtuous actions which are the cause of suffering. So now we are going to identify them. The 10 non-virtuous actions to avoid are divided into 3 categories. So 10 non-virtuous actions are what we need to avoid or we need to abandon. And then they are divided into 3 categories. That action, 4 non-virtuous actions. 3 that are from our body, 4 from our speech, and 3 from our mind, like that. So these 3 are called the 3 doorways. So through our body, through our speech, and through our mind, then either of these actions, whether positive or negative, then rises virtuous or non-virtuous karma. The 3 non-virtue of the body are killing, so physically killing, or also, making someone, even if you don't kill, but then you what's the word, that you ask somebody to do it for you, those kind of killing. So physical actions, killing. Stealing, from taking what is not yours, taking from or taking by force or with deceit. And then third is the sexual misconduct, the bodily misconduct, like that. The four non-virtues of the speech are lying, so telling or speaking what is untrue or lie. Second is slander or divisive talk. So, talk that that causes discord or like separation. So slandering, going to someone, talking badly of, like, this person says this of you and so forth, and again going to the other person, that person says this and that to you and so forth. So slandering. And third is harsh words, so speaking very harshly, using harsh words, words that hurt others' feelings and so forth, harsh words. And then fourth is meaningless talk, chatter, idle gossip, meaningless talk. And just this talk that takes nowhere, just one talk leading to another, and so endless. Just talk about taming your enemies and holding your lovers and all of those kind of things. Just that samsaric kind of talk, and then just wasting your time. So therefore they're called meaningless talk or idle talk. The three non-virtues of the mind are covetousness of others' possessions. So when you hear somebody has, they have the riches and good qualities and so forth, then immediately your mind rushes toward that and think that, oh, I want that. You covet of others' possession, like that. Second is ill will or wishing harm onto others, constantly thinking with negative intentions and negative thought, and may this kind of bad things happen onto others, and so ill intentions, so ill will. Third is holding wrong views of nihilism or eternalism, so holding views that contradict karma, understanding karma. For example, negative karma causes suffering, positive karma brings happiness. So then you kind of hold an opposite view to that one, or negative actions do not harm anyone, does not create any difference. Likewise, positive actions and positive karma does not do any benefit, and so forth. So those are holding wrong views of nihilism or eternalism. Either of these two wrong views can create the heaviest karma. Out of these wrong views like nihilism, negating everything, eternalism, thinking that everything is permanent and unchanging and so forth, through that, then the most heaviest of karma are created. A nihilist point of view, the belief that neither Dharma nor karma exists, creates the most negative karma. So in the teachings it is mentioned, there is fault and defects in not being literate, not studying. But even more than that, to hold the nihilistic view is even more dangerous, because with nihilistic view, then you can cause a lot of harm to countless beings. So therefore nihilist view is the most dangerous of all. So anyway, wrong view here we are saying, view that contradicts the cause, the cause and effect, and then holding nihilistic view like that. Now, instead of committing negative actions, practice the 10 virtuous actions. Again, from the 10, we have abandoning the 3 non-virtuous actions of the body and cultivating the 3 virtues of the body. So instead of killing, so giving up killing, instead protect the lives of sentient beings. So sentient beings, those who are sick or about to be killed and so forth, you save them and protect their lives. So that is one of the virtues of the body. And then stealing was what was non-virtuous. Now abandoning stealing, then practicing charity instead of stealing. So practicing generosity, practicing giving and being generous. So that is virtue of the body. And the third one is practicing morality instead of engaging in sexual misconduct or immorality. So misconduct or lacking discipline. So giving up all of those, then engaging in discipline, practicing discipline, practicing modesty, practicing freeing from attachment, practicing giving up lust and attachment and so forth. So practicing discipline. Then the four from the speech, abandoning lying. And so here speaking the truth instead of lying. Reconcile those who oppose each other instead of engaging in divisive talk. So when you see people are in disharmony, you go to them, and then instead of adding more fuel to their situation, going and talking to them of their qualities, these they have, each one of you have such nice qualities, you should be together and reconciling. So reconciling instead of slandering. Then speaking gently instead of harsh words, or speaking with whatever it be, rather than using harsh word, being very skillful and using gentle words. So speaking gently. And then the fourth one is, instead of useless chatter and so forth, recite prayers instead of gossip and idle talk. Then reciting the prayers of refuge, prayers of compassion, or your recitation of the aspirational prayers and so forth. So reading the prayer books and so forth. And then now the three from the mind. So the three virtue from the mind is meditate joyfully about others' possession and qualities and practice generosity. So earlier you would covet on others' possession and so forth. Rather than that, so you meditate being joyful when whatever they have, then you feel joyful and happy about others' possession and qualities. And practice generosity. And then instead of ill will and ill intentions and so forth, practicing loving kindness while giving up ill will toward others. So always being loving and kind and never generating any kind of aversion or any kind of ill will or any kind of negative intentions from your heart. So this is from the mind, we say, but also from the heart. And then the last one is believe and trust in Dharma and karma rather than holding wrong views. So reading the words of the Buddhas and then speculating, examining and all of those, and then bringing conviction and certainty and then faith and devotion in the Dharma, instead of giving rise to more doubts and skepticism and all of those. So doubts and skepticism and all of those just give rise to a nihilistic view. So instead, reading more, investigating and speculating the Dharma, the more you speculate in that way, then you will come to understand the truth of the Dharma, when you understand the truth, then naturally there is conviction, there is faith, which is not blind faith, it is natural, clear faith and vivid faith, and fervent devotion rises. So therefore, so now we know that 10 non-virtuous actions are what we need to, when we say actions, so actions of the body, actions, speech, and mind. So those 10 non-virtues are to be abandoned or need to be abandoned. And then abandoning that, cultivating the 10 virtues. So 10 virtues are what we need to cultivate. Then pray to Guru Rinpoche to give you blessings and the strength to always be aware of your actions and karma. So whenever we contemplate on that one, so as these teachings were explained earlier, then now we need to contemplate. So remember, when we do this practice, we have, say, our meditation or our session is for 1.5 hours. So for the first half hour, then we read thoroughly what are the teachings telling us about virtue and non-virtue and so forth. You read thoroughly, and then next hour you contemplate. Is it true? Is it so? And then you contemplate and ponder like that. And then the third hour, now you have the last half an hour, and on that last half an hour, then you recite the refuge prayers or invocation to the Guru, that praying to Guru Rinpoche, that Guru Rinpoche gives you the blessings and the power that you can understand karma. That may I understand karma, may I understand the infallibility of karma, like that. So it's mentioned in the teachings, that there is chance, it's possible that the sun can rise from the west. It's possible that the rivers can run upstream, but there is never a chance that karma can ever fail. So it is mentioned in the teachings, so that's why we need to contemplate. Whatever karma we have done in the past, when the conditions assemble, they will ripen, they will bear fruit. Even if it doesn't ripen in this life, it will ripen in next life. Even if it doesn't ripen in next life, it will ripen in series of future lifetimes like that. When the conditions come together, it will naturally bear fruit. Say, there's when we practice Vajra Sattva, when we are purifying karma, there's a part there where it will be mentioned. Karma, we say there are two kinds of karma. One is called the projecting karma, and the other one is called the completion or completing karma. So, for example, if what you did upfront is called the projecting action, so be it positive or negative, that is the projecting karma. But the completion karma is when you look back into that one. Say you did something very unkind to somebody, and few hours later, then you reflect on that situation, and then you think, oh, I didn't, that wasn't kind of me, I shouldn't have done that. And when you think like that, that is called the completion karma. Although your action, projecting action, was non-virtuous, your completion action was virtue, and then that can change the karma, that can change the nature of karma. And similarly like that, if you did something kind or generous to someone, helped them in their, when they needed help and so forth, and like few days or few months after, then you reflect back and then you think with regret that, oh, I shouldn't have helped them and so forth. And then now what you do is your completing action, your completing karma is non-virtuous. So even that virtuous projecting action is sealed or completed with non-virtue, then that action now again turns into non-virtuous. So karma is like that. So can read the words of my perfect teacher and you will understand all of those. So anyway, karma, whatever we have planted, even if it doesn't bear fruit now, soon as when the conditions and the circumstances assemble together, then it bears fruit. So either we have to experience the result of karma, or we need to work on purifying that karma, purifying especially the negative karma. So that is how we need to understand karma. So it's not just like here we're talking about cause and effect. So cause and effect, whatever we had done in our past, that we reflect, and then we generate what is called like regret toward whatever negative karma that we had done, and then making a firm conviction that hereafter I won't engage in non-virtuous as I did before, like that. So such kind of commitment should be brought, such kind of conviction should be brought in our mind. So this is how we contemplate on infallibility of cause and effect. So meditate. So the first half hour reading thoroughly, the second half hour then contemplating on the words of the Buddhas, the teachers, and so forth, like that. And then the third half hour, then you recite the refuge prayers, or prayer to Guru Rinpoche, or chanting mantras, or whatever you do. And why we are chanting and why we are praying is to give us, so that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Lamas and all of them give us the power and blessings that we understand the infallibility of cause and effect. So that's the third contemplation. So when we contemplate in such a way, then our mind naturally turns toward Dharma. Mind is inclined, our mind is taking the right direction toward, because we are practicing. So this is how we are advancing. So these are steps that are very important. These are called outer preliminaries, or the outer Ngöndro. So these are very, very important. Contemplate the fourth thought, the reflection on suffering of cyclic existence, which is samsara. In the text, the lines read, Kamsum korwa dungay chansoy ngang. The three cyclic realms have the nature of an ocean of suffering. So the three cyclic existence, we say, desire realm, and then form realm, and formless realm. So in samsara is categorized into three different kinds of realms. There is the desire realm, where we have form, and where we project desire from our mind and from our body, like that. So they're called desire realm. And then there is the form realm, where there is subtle form. So although if it's subtle, but it is form. For example, like a rainbow. Rainbow is a form. So although it's not solid, but it's subtle, it's still form realm. So those are like the God realm and so forth. Although they have bodies and so forth, but their bodies are subtle. And then formless realm is like, again, another level of God realm, which are called the samadhi gods who have been caught in some kind of meditative state. So they are called the formless realm. So in whichever realm that you're born, be it the desire realm, the form realm, or the formless realm, you're still under samsara, you're still within samsara. And then you haven't transcended samsara, it's just the nature of suffering. So it's mentioned in the teachings, it's like a bug trapped inside a jar, whether the bug is down at the base of the jar or on the lid of the jar, inside the jar, it's within the jar. So similarly like that, cyclic existence, for example, you might be at the bottom of the cyclic existence, which are like the hell realm and so forth, or you can be way up there and like the lid like that, at the formless realm of the gods. You're still within samsara. It's the nature of suffering. You haven't transcended suffering. So that's why the three cyclic realms have the nature of an ocean of suffering. And the suffering never comes to an end. Suffering, that's why it's called the ocean of suffering. Until wisdom is perfectly accumulated and realization has been attained, negative and positive karma are generated unceasingly. The result of accumulating negative karma is the cycle of suffering. What causes suffering is this negative karma. So what propels this suffering is the negative karma. And if the negative karma never ends, the effect of experiencing the result of suffering also never stops. It goes on and on. That's why it's called cycle. The cycle. We all experience known as samsara. So suffering is what is called as samsara. Samsara and suffering, they are, I'll just say, so they're common. It's like synonyms. Samsara is suffering. Suffering is samsara. Like that. Accumulating positive karma and practicing dharma are our only hope for being released from continual and inescapable suffering. So only dharma, only understanding dharma and wisdom can free us from the bondage of cyclic existence. So then these two, contemplation, remember the infallibility of cause and effect, and then the defects of cyclic existence. It's our practice is not just aiming to be born in the God realm, to experience the higher forms of life, or to experience the glory of the higher lives and so forth. That's not the goal. So it's just within, even the God realm is within cyclic existence. It's just happiness, temporary happiness. That's all. So we need to transcend that. Our aim has to transcend that one. And then cause and effect too. Cause and effect is not just practicing virtue and discipline and so for just ourselves, but we are practicing this in order to transcend the understanding of cause and effect, like that. So those two, contemplating on these two, then all the defects of future lives are taken care of. There are 6 realms of cyclic existence within samsara, 3 lower and 3 upper realms. So the 3 lower realms are animal realm, hungry ghost realm, or the hungry spirit realms, and then the hell realms. Within hell realms, there are the cold hells, there are the hot hells, and so forth. There are like 18 different kinds of hell realms, like that. So, and then the 3 higher realms are human realm, the demigod realm, and the god realm. So 3 lower realms and 3 upper realms, or 3 higher realms. As our karma ripens, we are continuously reborn in these realms, determined by the heaviness or lightness of the ripening karma. So whatever karma that we accumulate in this life, for example, when we give rise to arrogance, when we give rise to jealousy, when we give rise to desire, when we give rise to stupidity, stubbornness, when we give rise to greed, and when we give rise to anger and so forth. So there are, in the teachings is mentioned, secretly or unconsciously. There are 6 different kinds of seed that are built. That seed kind of is growing slowly by slowly. So arrogance, jealousy, desire, stupidity, ignorance or stubbornness, then greed and miserliness, and then the last one is anger or hatred, like that. So you can just think for a moment, and then, do I give rise to those kind of emotions? If so, then secretly these seed are slowly by slowly forming. And whichever seed of these 6 is the heaviest, that is going to take the next life form. So that's what Lama Thachun Rinpoche is saying. Determined by the heaviness or the lightness of the ripening karma, we experience both suffering and happiness of in all realms. However, as our heaviest positive karma ripens, we attain good birth in the upper realms. So depending on if our positive karma is heavier than the negative karma, then for a moment, then we will take birth in the higher realm. But if the negative karma is heavier than the positive karma, then our immediate birth will be in the lower realms, like that. As our heavier negative karma ripens, we are reborn to experience terrible suffering in the 3 lower realms. Accumulating merit through virtuous action can cause happiness within the upper realms, and the generation of non-virtuous action can cause suffering in the lower realms. So this is how the Buddhas teach us that the birth within cyclic existence, the lower realms, when there are more suffering, birth in the higher realms, when there are higher forms of life or greater happiness and so forth. Why we experience, how do we achieve that? These are all because of the play of whatever karma that we had accumulated in our past. For example, a heavy accumulation of miserliness can be the cause of rebirth in the hungry ghost realm. So greed and miserliness can be the cause for rebirth in the hungry ghost realm. A lighter accumulation, even if you are born human, can still be the cause of your being poor. So, now the heavy miserliness would cause a birth where you are bereft, or when there's no food, you have never heard of food and drink, and you are constantly starving and tormented by hunger and thirst, like that. But a lighter accumulation of that miserliness, you'd be born as a human being, but still you'll experience poverty and always being, poor and never having enough and so forth. So like that. So this is how cause and effect play. Completely at the mercy of the winds of karma, we have no control over where we will be born next, where we will be blown next. So karmic winds, that's why we Buddhists talk about reincarnation or rebirth, like that. When we die, we leave our body here. But what we take with us, or what pushes us, is this karmic wind, because the karma is within that mind who believes that these aggregates is owned by that that ego is the owner. Buddha in the teachings mentions, karma do not ripen onto sticks, stones, or anything. It solely ripens on that believer of that aggregate. Karma ripens on that believer, that ego, that I, who believes on that aggregate as the I. So then, when they die, Their aggregates are left behind, but the believer of that aggregate, who always thought that it was me and it is I, that ego and so forth, that is where karma is stored. Mind doesn't die. Mind goes on. And whatever imprint is there within that mind is this wind of karma. And this karma, this wind propels or pushes us to the next life. We have no control. It says we have no control over where we will be blown next. As a good rebirth come to an end and our negative karma ripens, we may be reborn into a realm with torturous suffering. For countless eons, we have gone around and around, all due to our own delusion, ignorance, and lack of recognition of the wisdom nature of mind. So here Lama Tharchen Rinpoche is speaking from the Vajrayana point of view, that our mind innately has wisdom. Our mind has the Buddha potential. So that's why he's mentioning that it's like a shed of light here. He's mentioning the wisdom nature of our mind. It's innately or within mind that is the Buddha potential. So when we don't recognize that, that's where all confusion rises. Everything is projected from that confusion, and we create karma, and we create that habit, and all of these then starts to give rise to the fruit of all those ignorance and confusion and so forth like that. So when we lack the recognition of our innate nature or wisdom nature of mind, instead we generate anger and deep hostility, causing rebirth in the hell realms. We grasp with miserliness and create avarice, the cause for a rebirth in the hungry ghost realm. We are blinded by ignorance, the cause for rebirth in the animal realm. We are consumed by desire, the cause for a rebirth in the human realm. The habits of jealousy and fighting cause rebirth in the demigod realm, and arrogance and pride cause rebirth in the god realm. As I mentioned earlier, these emotions arisen from the lack of recognition of our own true nature. We fuel that one, and these seed are what are built. And when this seed becomes stronger and stronger, these are what propels us to the next birth, like that. At this time, we have the great fortune of having been born in the human realm, the middle of the 6 realms. So when we talk about cyclic existence, there are 3 higher realms, 3 lower realms. Human realm is just in between the higher and the low, because there's God, there's demigod, and human. If you go down, there's the animal, the hungry ghost, and the hell realm. So human beings are right in the middle. It's the half black, half white kind of. There's enough suffering there so that they can kind of reflect. There's enough happiness there, they can be joyful, but at the same time they have suffering that they can reflect, and that kind of triggers them onto the path of searching the truth to end this suffering. Our suffering as human is not nearly as great as the inescapable and intense suffering of the hell realms, hungry ghosts and animals. So our suffering compared to the animals and the hungry ghosts and animals, it's not so torturous. For example, hell beings that are tormented by burning, and in the hot hells they are burned, the incessant torment of the fire, it never cools down, it just goes on and on and on. And if they're born in the cold hells, there's a freezing cold that they have it never ends like that. And hungry ghosts, they're tormented by hunger and thirst. They go for years and years, decades, that they don't even hear the word of food and water like that. And in the animal realm, animals like the mightier ones bullying the timid ones and abused. Abuse, what's the word? Animals being killed for food, animals being killed for clothing, animals being killed for sporting fun, those kind of, like, what a terrible suffering like that. And animals being, stupid and dumb, at least human beings, they know how to find a shelter when it's cold and so forth. But animals, they just, when it rains, they get just drenched and they don't know how to build a shelter for themselves like that. So, comparing to these kinds of suffering of the hell realm, human beings are slightly better. Okay, then, yet in the human realm, there are still four main inevitable suffering: birth, aging, sickness, and death. Then we talk about suffering. Suffering, there are three kinds of suffering. One is called the fundamental suffering. Fundamental suffering, everyone is kind of, it's prevailed by that fundamental suffering. Eventually, everyone has to die. Everyone has so forth. That fundamental suffering is, it prevails onto all the, cyclic existence. Then there is this called the suffering of change, that we experience happiness for a while, but happiness changes into suffering. So the suffering of change. And the third one is called the suffering of suffering. When one suffering isn't ended, another suffering befalls on. So the suffering of suffering and so forth. So there are three different kinds of suffering. Yet in human realm, there are still four. So there's four inevitable suffering. That's birth, aging, sickness, and death. In the three upper realms of human demigods and gods, there is some temporary happiness, still varying degrees of suffering exist. That is, suffering of change is still there. Your karma may appear to be positive now, but eventually it will exhaust itself, and karmic suffering will once again manifest. This is, for certain, there is no permanent or lasting happiness in samsara, and yet this is exactly what all beings desire. We want, we never think of lasting happiness. If we were to think of lasting happiness, then we would look for a path. We are kind of, we just kind of settle for less. Like if I achieve happiness for a few decades or for a few lifetime, it's okay. So then we just, we only want to try, kind of achieve higher realms, higher forms of life within cyclic existence. But soon as that karma ends, we plunge down into the lower realms again. We suffer, so like that. If we were in search of that lasting happiness, then we would search for the path or the truth. So that's why he's saying, this is why we all desire just, we just are attached to that temporal happiness, that's all. We don't really seek to, we don't really have the courage to seek that lasting happiness. Patrul Rinpoche mentions that it is not that we cannot achieve happiness, but it is our lack of that intention or desire to achieve, or to, it is the lack of that wish or aspiration to achieve that lasting happiness. All beings want permanent and unchanging happiness and release from suffering. We all want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. But then what we do and what we think and what we express is contradictory to that one. We wish happiness, but we only conduct in ways that just bring about suffering. Without grasping how intense is the inevitable suffering in samsara, it is not possible to appreciate the true quality of Dharma. So, in the teachings mentioned, sometimes when suffering befalls on us, it is actually a good opportunity because it makes us reflect inwardly. For example, when COVID happened, everybody thought that we were going to die. And then at that time, it kind of triggered that fear that some people were, maybe some people, I don't know how many, but some people, they were in search of, what would bring that end of the fear and so forth like that. So that's why a little bit of suffering sometimes it's kind of helpful, because it triggers us to, seek or search for the path. Only through practice can lasting peace and happiness be found. By turning our normally deluded mind to realize pure and stainless wisdom mind beyond all dualistic concepts and habits. So, all these lifetimes we Buddhists talk about countless lives before. We wish for happiness, but have we achieved that lasting happiness? No. We constantly are, cycling within cyclic existence like that. But why didn't we achieve that? Because we never searched truly. Only Dharma. Dharma is understanding the truth. Dharma means the path that awakens to realizing one's own true nature. So here Lama Tarjan says, only through practice can lasting peace and happiness be found. By training our normally deluded mind. Our mind is confused. We need to train our mind to realize the pure and stainless wisdom mind. Mind's true nature is wisdom within, has wisdom, has innate, we say the co-emergent or stainless wisdom within, which is beyond all dualistic concept and habits. That is what we need to realize. That is also called Buddhahood. That's also called attaining, we say, enlightenment, like attaining that realization. And then that transcends all suffering. That transcends cyclic existence. Realize that other than Dharma, no lasting essence can be gained from the 6 realms of samsara or this human birth. Beyond Dharma, there is no essential meaning to your life. So we talk about life, this meaningful life that we want to use. Then Dharma is then seeking the truth or understanding or realizing nature of the truth is the essence of your life. So the only true permanent happiness to be found is the attainment of Buddhahood. So again, when you meditate this one, you divide your meditation session into 3. The first half an hour, you read thoroughly, for example, this commentary of the Ngöndro, or if you want to read other books like Words of My Perfect Teacher, or like The Jewel Ornament of Liberation, or any other books that talk about cause and effect and the nature of samsara, the nature of cause and effect, and so on and so forth. So you read that one thoroughly. And then the next half an hour is where you don't, you just contemplate. You just, is this true or not, like that. You need to ponder. You need to, how would you say, it's called samba. It's like you need to contemplate that. Contemplation in the in the teachings of Khenpo Jigpen Rinpoche is like sharpening the sword. Contemplation is like sharpening the sword. Like when you sharpen, when your knife is kind of blunt, then you sharpen it. Contemplation is like that. So if you have good contemplation, that means you have a very good sharp sword. And then meditation is when you have the sharp sword, then you are ever ready to implement that. So when afflictions arise, you are ready with that knife, which is very sharp, and you can use to uproot it. You can use to slash, like that. So then meditation here means implementing, and it's like engaging. It's like practically implementing it. So like that. So the second hour, you need to contemplate these words the Buddhas have taught, or the Lamas are teaching here. You need to listen, and then you need to contemplate, is this true or not? Examining, speculating, and all of those. And then the third hour, then again you recite the refuge prayers, or the chanting of mantras, or invocation of Lama's blessings, and so forth. What you are doing is that you're requesting or asking for the blessings and power that I understand that cyclic existence, that the defects of cyclic existence is the, and then so that my mind turns toward Dharma. So then he says, contemplate this and mix your mind with Guru Rinpoche's mind, meditating on open space. Then after that, then Guru Rinpoche, wisdom mind and your mind merge together, and you just rest in that nature and recite, Tenne Dalo Chala Jurasho. May this contemplation turn my mind towards the path of enlightenment. By reflecting on each of the four thoughts, we are engaging in a kind of analytical meditation. As insight and experience increase through using these contemplative practices, our realization deepens. To know the nature of everything is wisdom. The opposite is ignorance. So, to know the truth is wisdom. And then not knowing the truth, not understand the truth, that's called ignorance. Strive to understand the true meaning of the four thoughts by remaining in a wisdom state. Only through genuine, heartfelt reflection on these as essential truths can your mind be resolutely turned towards the Dharma. So until we train within these four thoughts, then our Dharma practice is very superficial. And so if you practice this thoroughly, then true Dharma, true path, the true search for the Dharma path happens, and that is when our mind turns towards Dharma. Contemplative meditation can begin to release attachment to worldly matters, eventually leading to renunciation as aversion and disgust for samsara arises. So then, samsara, earlier it was very alluring, and so forth. Now you don't see samsara is that anymore, and your attachment to samsara is now not as strong as before, like that. Rather, you understand the nature of samsara as suffering. Remember, we were saying this samsara and suffering, they are synonym. So then, rather, you don't fall for samsara. Now you see this is just suffering, and then you want to free from samsara. That's what arises. This is the natural result of practice, because pure Dharma practice does not grasp onto samsaric phenomena. Your conviction to practice for the attainment of liberation will increase as you turn away from a normal perception of worldly phenomena. Resolutely vow to practice pure Dharma and pray to Guru Rinpoche to give you the strength of conviction to accomplish the path and receive the nectar of his blessings. So why do we pray to Guru Rinpoche? It's so that our mind generates this clarity that what we want and what can achieve that desire or that wish that we want. So like that kind of, then that's the blessing of the Guru. That's the blessing of Guru Rinpoche, like that. In our normal life as a sentient being, we have the potential for great realization. Through the blessings of the Guru, recognize your own mind to be inseparable from stainless wisdom mind. So here Lama Tarjan Rinpoche again is, bringing the Vajrayana outlook. Now why we need to practice is the Guru can grant us the blessings to understand our innate nature. So recognize one's own mind, one's own true nature, which is stainless wisdom. With this view, remain in formless meditation without analyzing or fabricating for as long as possible. So when Guru Rinpoche's wisdom mind and your mind merges together in inseparability, you remain in that state without any kind of conceptualization for as long as you can. So this is how you practice. This concludes the outer Ngöndro. So that's it. So any questions? No.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a sincere, most of the time, I have a sincere feeling towards to pursue cultivation in all aspects of my life. But sometimes cultivation is extremely challenging. Extremely, extremely challenging. At those times, how do we use these thoughts to overcome it? Because sometimes I feel like the suffering that comes from cultivation is more intense than anything I've experienced in the world. And I know there's happiness at the end, but it doesn't feel like that at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Practicing is not easy. It's in the beginning, because we need to bring our enthusiasm or our desire or keenness in the path, in the path, and then we need to keep fueling that one. We need to keep, because we had a little bit of merit. That merit brought us to the path. Yeah. And then the merit kind of exhausts. When the merit exhausts, or merit kind of ends, then we lose the interest, because we need to. The path is propelled through this accumulation of merit. So our inspiration that brought us to the path was because of the accumulation of merit. So now, in order for us to traverse the path, we need to still keep on accumulating more merit. So to accumulate merit, we need to engage in positivity. Our positivity here, our body has to engage in virtuous actions, or speech in virtuous speech, our mind is virtuous state of mind, like that. So that's what we need to continuously do. If we engage in that one, then we accumulate merit. And merit will keep us going. And when we exhaust merit, then we have this lack of inspiration. Yeah. So it brought us to this point. It's just like you're going on a journey. With that gas, that whatever you had topped your tank, will take you to a certain point. But in order for you to again continue from that point on to another, you need to keep refueling. Yeah. So similarly, like that, in practice too, it is the merit. It's called the merit. And merit is through being joyful, being positive. That's how we accumulate merit. So just enjoying your practice. So if you dread your practice, that's where you are not accumulating merit. Yeah. So being joyful that I have met this path, I have such a wonderful life, I met the Buddha Dharma, I met the teacher imparts his instructions and so forth, and I got to do my part, keep on doing, being positive and so forth. So merit is what we need. Yes. Merit keeps us joyful. Merit, because if you read the words of my perfect teacher, earlier, out of the 4 contemplations, our first of the remaining 2 was contemplating on infallible cause and effect. Yeah, positive karma, because we had some positive karma that brought us to Dharma. Yeah. Now, that positive karma is running out, so that's why it's called the lack of merit. The merit is exhausting. So we need to still keep on investing on positive karma, so that we can move forward. And if we use that positive karma in a positive way, then there is like a reaction. It makes us accumulate more merit. If you just kind of think, I have positive merit, and you wasted it, but you didn't work to accumulate again, what you experienced at that point was just the result of your past merit. But hereafter, you're not working more to accumulate merit to go ahead. So that's called karma. Karma has it's called reaction. Yeah, karma. That's so positive karma triggers you to do positive things. Yeah, and then you need to accumulate merit. When it triggers you to do positive things, you need to accumulate merit, and merit triggers you to do positive things, and this is what you need to keep on doing it. So yes, accumulating merit is to be joyful, to be always free yourselves from negativities, always being positive and virtuous, joyful, loving, kind. The list never ends. Yeah.
How about like when you feel like pain in your legs, or like pain, like?
No, it's okay. Once in a while you can just stretch.
Yeah.
And the pain is temporary. Yeah. It will be there. It's momentarily. Yeah, momentary, and then you just kind of think of that pain, or the pain is there at the moment, and then sooner or later it will just dissipate. Okay, so that's all for today. So please practice in this way. And Buddha's words are what? Buddha's words are Buddha's teachings are wisdom. And wisdom is what dispels the darkness of our ignorance. So, okay, now dedication on page 62. Sunnam Duyu Tamje Zigbani Tobne Nebe Janam Pamje Shin Kega Nachi Balong Truba Yi Silbe Solen Drowa Sho Jambe Bawo Jedara Kemba Dan Kundo Zambo Deyan Deda Kungi Jeso Daglo Chin Gewa Dedan Tamje Rabdungo Desum Shenpen Gewan Tamje Ngowa Gangla Chontung Akba De Dagi Gewe Sawa De Kancha Zangbo Cheche Ramto Ngo Renge Jangshu Semcho Rimbo Che Make Panam Kejuju Keba Nyamba Meba Dan Gongne Gondu Pewara Sho Jangshu Semdan Midrish Jangshu Jella Shawa Dan Sangye Namge Yongzong Shin Duge Lenam Bambara Sho Jangshu Semba Namgen Joden Tola Gondro Sho Gombo Yene Gang Gongba Semjen Namla Dejur Sho Semjen Tamjen Dedan Dejur Ngöndro Tamjen Dando Dongbara Sho Jangshu Semba Gandak Starjop Deda Gunge Melamdro Barasho Gewa Deye Gewa Gun Sonam Yeshe Tozosh Yeshin Le Jungwen Damba Gunne Do Barasho Rinshen Getso Deye Drowa Gun Dado Dambe Chendan Midrash Ranshen Denne Zomba Tarchenne Chenga Drobe Jeden Ze Barasho Pende Junne Demba Peljuro Terab Kunzo Chella Chaj Gelkam Kunto Tashi Ge Juriche Drogun Chamche Sanje To Juriche Lama Kukam Zangwara Chonto Kutsen Ringwara Sewa Den Chenle Darshin Ge Parasewa Lama Dan Jewa Me Parajinje Lo Kandu Kebe Gewa Tamche Du Tore Yenden Dunden Tombar Kema Tatu Chedan Che Juriche Tsujin Drube Rangwa Yen Parasho Diriyan Lama Damba Ne Nendan Sendu Chelai Che Parasho Chedo Nene Nimbo Dendro De Tsede Semben Janso Gawarash Seba Dambe Chera Tenje Chen Shenpen Rola Chongal Me Parasho Lapchen Shindun Chorim Tamje Chamje Sanje To Parasho Chezul Deyan Nide Gilkorojin Choge Tadro Kundu Lodre Bemo Ramdo Gejen Chen Sange Temba Darjin Gambarash Longre Tebe Meshe Dremlen Menga Sembe Tenzon Muna Chong Gomjon Yeke Nelo Jejen Shera Sumge Nawa Gambara Sho Nandra Riksum Langai Chengwe Ngang Kudan Yeshe Rabar Jamleb Zabsan Naljo Chembe Nyamlen Lai Yereme Tuki Tingle Rochisho Kewa Kuntu Yangdak Lama Dan Ralme Cheke Pella Lonje Chen Sadan Lamge Yende Rabzot Palde Lame Gopan Yorto Sho Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Sindi Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Sindhi Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Te Dreng Tsal Benzar Samayanza Sindhi Pala Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Te Dreng Tsal Benzar Samayanza Sindhi Pala Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Te Dreng Tsal Benzar Samayanza Sindhi Pala Hung Okay, so stay well and keep practicing. Tashi Delek and bye bye, good night.